Today, I'll examine the role suppliers play in business and in the global supply chain. We'll look at who suppliers are, what they want from their business relationships, and how much leverage they can exercise when companies depend on them. We'll also consider how goods and services move across the world economy and why those flows matter for business environments and decision-making. The central idea is simple. Suppliers are not just sources of products or services. They can significantly influence cost, risk, flexibility, and competitive advantage. This agenda focuses on four connected questions about suppliers. First, we'll define who suppliers are and clarify their role in the broader value chain. Next, we'll examine supplier interests, including the motivations that shape their behavior and decisions. Then, we'll turn to supplier power, using Porter's 5 forces to understand bargaining leverage. Finally, we'll look at the global supply chain, considering its scope, structure, and strategic implications. Together, these topics provide a framework for understanding how suppliers influence business performance and competitive dynamics. A supplier is any individual, business, or organization that provides the inputs another entity needs to operate, create products, or deliver services. Suppliers extend far beyond raw materials. Raw material suppliers provide resources such as minerals, agricultural products, or oil. Component suppliers manufacture parts, chips, and subassemblies that become part of a finished product. Service suppliers support operations through logistics, IT, consulting, or legal expertise. Finally, indirect suppliers provide essential background needs, including office supplies, maintenance, and utilities. Together, these categories form the broader supplier network. Supplier relationships extend across multiple tiers, and each tier reveals a different level of visibility and risk. Tier 1 suppliers are the companies we buy from directly, so they're usually the easiest to identify and manage. Tier 2 suppliers provide inputs to those direct suppliers, creating dependencies that may not be immediately visible. Tier 3 and beyond include raw material and commodity sources, often farthest from a buyer's view. Understanding this upstream structure helps us recognize where disruptions, concentration, or other risks may originate within the broader value chain. Suppliers are looking for more than a purchase order. Profitable pricing is foundational. They need prices that cover costs and provide a sustainable margin, especially when buyer pressure threatens profitability. Long-term contracts also matter because predictable volume and duration reduce uncertainty and support investment in capacity. Timely payment protects cash flow and helps maintain a healthy working relationship. Finally, reputation and growth are connected. Suppliers value reputable buyers because the relationship signals quality and can help them reach new markets. Together, these interests shape what suppliers consider a valuable customer relationship. Supplier power describes how much influence vendors have over the companies that depend on them. It is one of Porter's 5 forces and a critical part of competitive analysis. When supplier power is high, suppliers may dictate contract terms, raise prices, or reduce quality because buyers have limited alternatives or negotiating leverage. The key risk is that profit margins flow upstream, away from the business. Understanding this force helps us assess how vulnerable the company is to supplier decisions and where stronger bargaining options may be needed. Supplier power increases when buyers rely heavily on a supplier and have few realistic alternatives. The fewer substitutes a buyer has, the more influence a supplier can exercise over price, availability, and terms. TSMC illustrates this dynamic. It manufactures advanced chips for companies including Apple and Nvidia, and replacing that capacity is extremely difficult. Rare earths provide another example. China controls roughly 60% of rare earth production, giving suppliers significant leverage and creating broader geopolitical consequences. The common thread is dependence combined with limited choice. Managing supplier power means reducing our vulnerability without giving up flexibility. The first strategy is multi-sourcing, qualifying several suppliers for critical inputs, so we are not dependent on a single provider. Second, strategic partnerships can create deeper collaboration, shared interests, and mutual dependency. Finally, backward integration means acquiring or developing the capability to produce and input ourselves, removing that dependency entirely. The right combination depends on how critical each input is and how easily it can be replaced. Global supply chains operate at a scale that is easy to underestimate. Products often depend on an intricate network of suppliers, transactions, and transportation routes spread across many countries. A typical smartphone can involve components from more than 40 nations before final assembly. Worldwide merchandise trade represents about $13 trillion annually, and roughly 80% of global goods move by sea. Together, these figures show why supply chains are both powerful and vulnerable. A disruption in one location can affect production, transportation, and customers across the world. Global supply chains are built around three main advantages. Cost arbitrage allows companies to access lower labor, land, and production costs in developing markets. Specialization provides world-class expertise, such as engineering in Germany or chip manufacturing in Taiwan. And local sourcing can improve access to new customer markets. These benefits come with significant exposure, however. Trade wars, tariffs, and sanctions can disrupt supply lines overnight. Floods and earthquakes can halt entire industries, while relying too heavily on one region creates concentration risk and makes the overall system more fragile. The key takeaway is that suppliers are strategic partners, not simply vendors. Their interests shape behavior, while bargaining power changes with market conditions, concentration, and substitutability. Global supply chains create opportunity and risk, making resilience and diversification essential. For the exam, explain Porter's supplier power factors and use real-world disruption examples.